I'm back to playing WoW. 11.0.7's back. It just had a baby, came back, and now we see a patch coming up soon. I don't know what's going on. I need to figure out more about this game. Let's see what is going on. Everything that's coming in patch 11.0.7 from Bellular.
Welcome back, everyone. We've got a lot to talk about today because our next patch, 11.07, is on the...
Oh, wow, like raiding right at the start. Oh my god, Daedra Flame. Thank you so much, man. 22 raiders coming in for the React content. Let's do it.
TR, and we've actually been playing it. So, between playing it, Blizzard's announcement, and of course data miners
yes, you can, Russia. You can
we've
give it
got
to
a clear
person
picture of what the next few months of World of Warcraft is going to look like, even including the return of an upgraded Plunderstorm, which is big for me. I'm at least one of the 7 people who really loved it. Anyway, I'll start with a quick rundown before I get into the full review of the gameplay from PTR. Blizzard have announced Siren Isle. It's the new patch zone in 11.07, and you can think of it as Forbidden Reach 2.0. It's kind of acting as our now usual mid-season wave of world content.
Sense.
The island itself is an old Kulteran Azerite mining facility that is now mysteriously vacant, and it's surrounded by nigh impassable storms. There is a reason why it's Kulteran, by the way, but more on that later.
Ooh,
and it's also the same island we recently covered that called out to Ricket's crew, leading to all of that 11.05 Dornegal.
Right, so this is all that stuff about the goblins finding the crystal and the Arathi finding a crystal. This is where it's all coming from. All the new songs and everything that we're hearing. This is the Isle, and this is where we're going to go. Okay, that makes sense in terms of lore.
See dialogue.
What is up, Orion?
That discovery essentially started a rush of Arathi, Earthen, and goblins, all on the hunt for this crystal that sounds suspiciously like Belladar. So we go there, and when we get there, we set up camp and we start investigating. We quickly find a ring called Circe's Circlet, and this ring essentially harnesses the power of gems cut from the strange singing crystals found in the island.
Right.
And that's basically our gameplay reason for going there. It's a second shot of the Onyx Amulet that they did in Dragonflight. Basically, it's a ring, it's got 3 special slots for crystals, those crystals have effects, and it's designed to be a wave of mid-season power to, well, give somebody something to do, something to chase after, but also to help you get through some of the content that you might be progressing on.
This is the necklace. This is the same thing as that necklace that we got in Dragonflight, right? You're just going to get the crystals, you're going to keep upgrading it, it's going to continually be your best-in-slot ring for quite a while.
Was more gems and more item level boosts for the ring will unlock over the weeks as we find out basically what the hell's going on the island and what the crystals are. I'll go in depth on how it plays shortly, but before that...
was it? It was the Onyx Amulet. It was a ring. That's right, Konesia. Thank you.
There's just a
short-term
few more
memory
points.
Loss.
There is going to be an epilogue questline with the Kirin Tor as they figure out what to do now that Dalaran has been blown up. And then we also know the Haranir will finally make a proper appearance in the 11.1 prologue campaign, which has also got its splash screen data mined. And Blizzard really aren't holding back secrets. Their promo video actually had a employee monitor blatantly display Kazan. So that is, I mean, that's a further tease. That's basically...
I watched this when I was gone after during paternity leave, and I was looking at it. I was like, why are they showing Kazan? They're doing this shit on purpose, clearly. Like, none of this is a mistake. The background is obviously there intentionally. Yeah, it's going to be a goblin patch. We're going to eventually go to Undermine in 11.1, probably some kind of goblin raid. We also saw that Gazlo is getting a completely new model, right? I was just showing that not too long ago. Where is that Gazlo model? Right here. They don't do this shit if they're not going to do something very much concentrated around this character. So goblin shit is going to be happening. Gazlo's getting a new model, and that's all for a reason.
We have a Goblin home island. That means that 11.1 is almost certainly going to have the Haranir facing off against the Venture Company. And then on top of that, we found out that the Turbulent Timeways event is also going to make a return at some point, also with a fresh mount reward. And we also know that the Arathi half-ears are going to be a customization option for the humans and the Kulterans coming in this patch. Okay, with that said, it's time to jump into the PTR and see how all of this plays. And if you'd like to support the work that our team does, well, you can go to bellular.games. Over there, we've actually released another episode of the Lore Walking Podcast. It's a deep dive into Hallowfall. I'll think you'll love it. There is so much great lore there that, let's just say, will be relevant for the future. And of course, our members also get access to our videos early and ad-free and a whole bunch more. And you can check that out with a free trial at the link down below. Let's dig into the PTR then, where the most important thing is our new patch zone. The The crux of the island is weekly quests combined with rares, treasures, secrets, and a farmable currency. This time it is called Flame Blessed Iron. Yeah, there's a lot of currencies this time around.
Yeah.
Now, we're not fully sure on what the big...
It's a lot of currencies, but they're actually doing us a service this time and not giving us like 10 new currencies in one patch. This is actually acting a lot like the Bronze did in Remix. When I was reading into it, it's going to be used to upgrade your items, right? Upgrade your ring in particular, the new one. It's going to be used to buy transmog, mounts, and everything else. So it's like a universal currency for the patch, which is better than what we typically get, which is like 10 different variants of every fucking currency on top of the 10 that we got before before that patch, and on top of the 15 that we got when the expansion went live. So thank God it's just one. I guess we're making some progress here.
Now, we're not fully sure on what the big ticket reward items are going to be here because the vendors aren't actually stocked yet, but it does seem like it's the standard world content model that we've come to know. That being said, there are some key differences that actually just make this seem kind of interesting. But basically, do your weeklies for big chunks of the resource and farm out a bit more if you want by doing rares and that sort of thing. Now, the patch notes do say mounts, pets, transmog, gear, and ring upgrades, so yeah, you'll have plenty of reasons to get that currency. And looking at the data mining, we have, of course, seen loads of models that are listed as being attached to vendors and drops within the area. And one of those...
All very goblin-y. And you look at all this stuff again, all hinting at goblin stuff. It's all very rickety, mechanical. So again, very goblin themed.
Loads of models that are listed as being attached to vendors and drops within the area. And one of those, I think a very notable one for the several people who remember it, is the Stormcrow mount. It is finally available as a part of one of this island's secrets. It's called Thrayr, Eyes of the Siren, and its initial data mining appeared during Siege of Orgrimmar in 2013. Wow. And from what we've learned so far, it seems to be a secret hunt across the island. As for the island itself, I've got to be honest with you, our time in the island has actually been pretty damn fun, even at this early PTR stage. The place essentially feels like a careful blend of the Forbidden Reach with Mechagon, and that is a good thing because Mechagon was actually...
Forbidden Reach and Mechagon, that actually sounds like a good combination. I think that'll be fun. And you got to remember, too, this is all coming out like just before the Winter Veil holiday stuff kicks off. You got the New Year. It's going to be a lot to do towards the end of the year, more than usual, where typically we're like on a downturn. There's nothing going on. This is going to be a nice little, kickoff for the end of the year.
Quite well liked at the time. It is simple
Mechagon
enough.
wasn't
It's
bad.
Tiny,
it was okay.
But it's
I
really
actually thought
dense and it's brimming with character. And despite the weeklies feeling like sort of standard fare, the combination of Mechagon-like traversal mechanics and the sheer density of the island actually make it a blast to just hop around and do things. And this is also made better by the quests being split across two versions of the island. This is something we haven't really seen before. So there's the regular version, but then the Storm version. Now, the Storm variant is accessed by talking to an NPC. So maybe they plan this to be like something that alternates based in time, and maybe realize that wasn't like a bad idea, so they just wanted to be on demand. It's hard to say, but whatever we've got now
I guess that's good, giving the players more choice and stuff. It does feel more realistic and immersive if the storm is just happening, like on a timer or it's whatever. But I'll be like in terms of gameplay and just respecting your time and allowing you to get on and do what you got to do, obviously being able to turn the storm on and off is probably the better way to go.
Actually work. Without the storm, the island has got easier mobs, it's got its own set of rares and quests, plus the command map objectives. And for these, donating a pittance of iron will activate weekly bosses to kill for gems that slot into your new ring. But then, whenever you move into the storm version of the isle, it's got a whole new set of rare elite mobs, it's got rares, it's got quests to do, and basically, it's a harder version of the island. Now, there is one thing where you've probably seen fear-mongering, right? That there's no flying here. I get it. People find out there's no flying, and immediately people think, "Oh, Blizzard, we've been through this before. What are you thinking?"
But from the looks of it, the island looks really small, so I don't think flying will be necessary. Flying's nice for traversing large areas, but if the island is that tiny, it would be just silly to have flying and everyone just hovering above, constantly just dropping down whatever they want to kill and then flying back up.
The island is tiny, and very early on, you unlock a jetpack that lets you glide around the place pretty damn effortlessly, and you get a gigantic swim speed boost. It does look like they'll open up flying a little bit later based on some buffs that exist in the game files, but trust me, from actually playing on it, it's not necessary here. It's already trivial to get around, and I don't know, it feels like a needlessly exaggerated drama that isn't really based on playing the game.
No, it's negative news, so everyone got to jump on that shit quick. But if they're giving us a bunch of ways to traverse the island and travel the island, then that's fine. We don't need flying.
Be honest. And some of that goes to bread and
I do
butter
have an
game
any,
design
this is true.
fundamentals. If you've got a really big play space, then yes, your flying obviously makes a lot of sense. In a case like this, where the island is tiny and it is dense, there's certainly an argument that flying can quite mess up a lot of the more intricate designs you may want to do. So them doing the jetpack and the water stuff, that kind of makes sense to solve the traversal problem, but still give them gameplay opportunities. Okay, there's that. Next then, the ring. It's got 3 slots, and the effects that we've seen so far split into DPS, tank, and healer. There are fairly obvious concerns that this could end up being as busted as the Onyx Amulet was in Dragonflight. We'll obviously just have to wait and see if they've learned their lesson there. At least the good news is that from data mining, at least so far, only 12 gems have been found. That's about half of what the Amulet had, which should be a lot easier to manage from a balance perspective. They're also split into 3 categories, so mixing them and matching them is a bit more restrained, which again will help with balance. And while it's important I say that there may be more to come in the future, right now they are simple damage procs, healing procs, and stat boosts.
I'll be honest, I don't know why they do this half the time. I don't care for like some random best in slot piece of gear that you get from a patch, because it also creates like an issue where once you get past this patch, anyone who comes in and plays the War Within might have to go back and get this ring. Now, of course, they'll make it like very easy to do with catch-up mechanics and stuff like that, but I just think it's so trivial and pointless. Why? Just leave things the way they are. Why you always got to add this random piece of gear in? I guess to motivate people to do the content, because we're already all cap level. That might be it, but I think just adding maybe a bit of an item level boost is a good way to do it. But hey, we'll get it.
The good news here is that they're swappable freely.
So
you don't need to
balance,
use an NPC or an ability like sort of past systems. It's just way easier. Now, the upgrades, of course, may end up being unlocked at different speeds on the PTR, so it's hard to really apply this to live. But right now, you can do 3 quests in a row to upgrade it to eye level 629 right away. There is a 4th quest that exists, but it was actually bugged. Again, though, PTR testing, PTR pacing, it's very hard to say exactly what's going on.
Mikey, thank you for the sub. 10 months, Death Knight of our Scourge.
At the very least, we know that these are coming from a quest chain, and it's something that is not tagged as being weekly, though I've got to imagine they won't give you a fully juiced up ring immediately. Lore-wise, I've got to be honest with you, there's actually too much to dig into in one video here, so you'll have to wait next week. We're going to let it cook. But I will give you the TikTok version of it now. So these crystals are extremely similar to Belladar. The Naga are collecting those crystals, and so are the Vrykul, which does raise some eyebrows. Now, it's called the Siren Isle because people have long heard the call from the crystal, only to have...
We're going to finally get playable Vrykul? Is this going to happen? We're finally going to get it? After a whole Northrend expansion where it never happened, now we're going to get it? Maybe.
Things go badly when they arrive, and our big example is the Cultirians who came there before us, but by the time we've arrived, mysteriously have vanished.
No,
and there is a meta reason for that. This is actually an unused island expedition map from Battle for Azeroth. It was a Cultirian Azerite mining map that they used as a base to develop this zone from, and they've actually done a pretty damn great job at working it into the story. I know some people will look at that and think, oh, asset reuse, but honestly, like, it may as well be new content. It's not like anyone's actually been to this.
Yeah, why would you delete this? This doesn't make any sense. It looks like a very good-looking island, looks cool, and island expeditions, man, they got a bad rap. They could have been so good, but because Blizzard had to go fix Azerite armor, they basically left them to die, kind of like this animal right here. But I don't see why they wouldn't reuse it. Shit, do it. Give us content. I don't care if it's reused content.
Island, and I have a slight suspicion it'll get more play here than it would have if it was an island expedition, which, obviously they weren't really that loved at the time. Now, the link between Azerite and Belladar sort of being crystallized world soul energy, that stuff in the deep lore is left as a mystery while we explore some other things like ancient Vrykul ruins. Those are actually quite fun. These Vrykul seem to know how to harness these crystals, but the Naga and the forces of darkness then fought them to the death there. Now, a potential source for the Storming Sea is hinted at, which is quite exciting if you're following that side of the lore. There's some fancy talk about energy complexity that hints at these crystals being sort of Azerothian, but not entirely Azerothian, and there's even one bit that reminds us of the Light's assault on Revendreth. Finally, then, we do hear some faint whispers of Iron Vrykul having an ancient civilization beneath the earth.
What the?
Yeah, like beneath. I don't know. Is it Hollow Earth?
Iron Vrykul. So I guess that would be like precursor flesh Vrykul. So I mean that would make sense. Where we've seen the Earthen now, which is basically precursor flesh dwarves. So why not Vrykul? But this is interesting. I wasn't expecting this much Vrykul attention in this patch.
Oh no, but to be honest with you, I kind
We'll get Tonka, Vrykul, and Tuskar in the last Titan. That I would take that. Shit, that'd be great.
with that. But anyway, that's just a whisper for now, and then there's the connection of all of these crystals to memories and emotions, not just Azeroth's, and Blizzard basically deepens and furthers that lore. There is so much to go into in depth. We're going to do that, but it will take until next week because there's just a lot to process. Back to the patch overall then. Blizzard's notes announce a huge set of racial buffs for certain races, mostly allied ones. Now these are covering Void Elves, both types of Draenei, Worgen, Zandalari, Mag'har, Nightborn, Volterra, and High Mountain Tauren. Some buffs are massive, some are fairly minor, and they say that it's to try and add a bit more diversity of that.
I will say it's good, but I do worry about one thing. I mean, maybe most of this is just silly, like, okay, Bag of Tricks, healing and damage increased by 40%. Okay. The one thing is they're adding this ring. They're doing all these racials. They got hero talents now, plus your regular spec trees. There's a lot of shit to balance. I feel like they're making their job a bit harder. It's a lot of stuff to keep all in line and keep it balanced properly and make sure certain racials are not forcing people into certain classes or racial specs. It's we'll see how this all balances out. But I mean, I guess at least they're trying to make racials more relevant.
Racials across content. Some of it's pure numbers, but I'll tell you what's really nice. The Void Elf Rift finally moves faster than your run speed, which means that it's, I guess, an actual movement ability, not just something you can use to, I suppose, mess with people's heads in PvP. It only took 7 years to make that one good. Anyway, another curious thing to mention is an upcoming profession respec option. That's for your profession specializations. That's fairly interesting. You see, the problem with those is you only get so much knowledge a week. There's no way to respec it after you've spent it, so people could feel like they would just naturally be exploring their profession, but then basically realize, oh no, I've bricked my character.
Yeah.
So Blizzard, it seems anyway, are trying to rebalance that. Next, let's hop into a bit of data mining. So the same splash screen that showed Orwena also mentioned Winter's Veil, and that does imply this patch will be out in the usual 8-week cadence, which would mean December 17th. Which does seem really late, but I guess that's what they're planning. Another thing then, now that we've learned that a lot of the instability from this patch has got a known source, which
I thought they said that before the Winter Veil was going to come out, so before December 17th. Winter Veil, Turbulent Time Waits, Plunderstorm, and more coming. Right, so I think he's wrong here, because it says it's coming, which means that would be December 17th is when this is coming. Which means, to me, that means the Siren Isles comes out before, because in this splash screen, the Siren Isles have already started, and they're telling you that the Winter Veil event is still coming. So they wouldn't say that if they were both on the 17th. So I think he's actually maybe wrong there, and we could get it the week before.
Another thing then, now that we've learned that a lot of the instability from this patch has got a known source, which basically is upgrades to the game engine that had unintended consequences, they say they should avoid that, or at least that's the implication. I'd also say this content is also more of a known factor, and there aren't any major class changes coming, so at least a number of the risk factors that really screwed 1105 shouldn't be present in this one. But still, if I was Blizzard, I would be extremely cautious. Anyway, speaking of holidays, we're also getting used to what they're doing. Lunar Festival and Love is in the Air are going to be getting a new stack of transmogs this year round, according to the data mining we're seeing. Some of these are flagged as being in the trading post, others are going to be from vendors and the event boss drop, and this does include new shoulders and broom mounts to match the Love Witch sets that dropped earlier this year. And then there's Plunderstorm and the Plunder Store as well as a practice mode, but there is no...
I'm glad they're bringing it back. I thought Plunderstorm was a lot of fun, a good way to kind of take a break from the game and play something else. I enjoyed it. I'm going to play it for sure.
Of trios just yet. So the Plunder Store has got all of the returning transmogs in it. It's also got new stuff like a black and purple version of the Plunderlord set with mounts and weapons to match, and they say this is going to be something in early 2025.
Nice.
It's a funny thing with Plunderstorm. Number one, this is a chance for them to iterate so that it doesn't have some of the issues the previous one had. I think the practice mode will be good for people who, I guess, are not as used to that sort of gameplay. I'll certainly say, and this is me not as a PvP player, me as primarily a raider in World of Warcraft, Plunderstorm was some of the most fun I had had in World of Warcraft for years and years and years.
It was fun.
I don't know what it was, but just the thrill of being in the Final Four, having just a skill shot and positioning based duel for the win. I thought that created really tense.
I still think that they should make Plunderstorm like free to play way somehow and allow people to actually get into the game, and then make the rewards available in World of Warcraft only, which will get people to come back, maybe play it a little bit, and then be like, oh man, I got all this stuff and wow, I should go, resub, check it out, and then they come back to the game. I think that'd be a great way to bring people in, because I think you don't have to own the expansion, but I believe you have to have an active sub to play Plunderstorm, right? That was the rule originally, and that probably still stands, but I think it'd be a good way to hook people into the game if you made it free.
Just engaging gameplay. I think I finished Plunderstorm with like 400 or 500,000 of the tokens. I mean, I played 4 times more than you needed to get all of the rewards, purely just for fun. So I mean, yeah, I'm obviously biased. I do want that to come back, but I hope that they're able to do it in a way that brings more people along in the ride and makes it feel a bit more approachable. Another interesting change is the cross-faction pre-made group finder restriction is being somewhat lifted. Alliance and Horde will be able to queue together, but only in a full group of 5, and that's because they do want people to play with the same faction by default. And then we got something I didn't expect, a BFA meta achievement. They've actually been adding these and just making sure that expansions have them, so this is for fully completing an exhaustive list of BFA content. If you do that, you will finish this achievement called A Farewell to Arms, and you will get the Janny's Trash Pile mount. In the process, there's a new mini meta achievement as well for fishing just the base BFA stuff, so no patch content, and that awards you with the Honeyback Hive Mother mount. Okay, all of that was a lot. In terms of how it shakes out, Siren Isle itself does look to be more of the same that we're used to, but I think it's fun enough to warrant the effort, especially because of all the lore, like nice sort of voice dialogue, the way that it's basically 2 zones in 1 with the storm.
It's a 0.7 patch, so this is good enough for me. I think this is good.
That's a fun design idea for them to start exploring. And we do also have to remember that we're just off the back of complaining that the 8-week cycle caused one of the worst patch launches we've ever seen. So that is something that's in my head. Like, there's the bit of me that looks at this, sees, okay, new content, the island's actually really fun, really well designed, the lore seems real cool, but 8 weeks is something that I'm still suspicious of, that I'm still a bit worried about. And for Blizzard, that does mean that we're about to find out if 1105 was just a one-off slip-up because they were doing engine upgrades and there's a bunch of complexity with class changes, or if it is the sign of a systemic failing. Because if this patch messes up, then yeah, they're going to have fallen into a trap that they kind of laid for themselves. So on that, I will say, fingers crossed. And in the meantime, if you'd like to know all that we currently understand about Belladar fully broken down for you, check out this lore video next.
Interesting what he said there at the end about, the last patch being broken and then this one being maybe a test of how they handle it. Yeah, that's certainly true. The thing is, these 2 patches were technically smaller than whatever we're going to get in the 0.1 patch is going to be soon, in 11.1, which we have no idea what it's going to be yet. But that's supposed to be a bigger patch, right? That's going to be a big boy patch. The one thing I will say is hopefully that patch doesn't have all the balancing shit that's happened in the recent patches, right? Like the 0.5 and the 0.7 one that we're getting now, there's been a lot of rebalancing and stuff, and that usually breaks the game more than, say, a new raid or something will, because Blizzard's used to that stuff more so. We'll see, but a nice video for Bellular. Excited for 11.0.7.